Ladies and gentlemen, Finlay McCrae speaks for the first time on his time at the Pies, and it's honest and interesting. It's time to talk all things black and white. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is proudly sponsored by TSL and Neon, Melbourne's trusted signage specialist for commercial LED and neon signage. For more information, please visit tslsigns.com. The link is in the description. They're family owned, family operated, and service all of Victoria. Now, this one's interesting. I was umming and ahhing about making a video, but I think it does offer us insight to how a player who is trying to compete and establish themselves as a younger player at the Pies, and it tells us maybe a little bit about Fly McCrae and everything else. So let's talk about this. So speaking to SEN WA Breakfast, speaking days into his time with West Coast. For those who don't know, McCrae is now a rookie at the Eagles. I might move this over because that is distracting me, those videos. Speaking just days into his time with West Coast, McCrae revealed the messaging received by Magpies coach Craig McCrae before leaving the club over the offseason. It was just about putting my best foot forward, and when the opportunity comes, try to take it. There was probably a fair few really good players and experienced players ahead of me at different times. I didn't quite get the opportunity I was after in extended periods. So let's start with going back to the beginning of last season. I personally think that Finlay McCrae's biggest opportunity was going into opening round in 2025. He had an astonishing preseason that there was just an energy around Finlay McCrae going to trading, the people talking about him around him. It was only positive, and he just ran the midfield in the preseason. And you know, typically the stars of the club take a bit of a backward step and encourage these up-and-coming players to put their best foot forward and dominate these pre-season intra-clubs and practice matches and whatever it may be. And that's what Finlay McCrae did. Running out of the centre, kicking accurately inside 50, kicking goals, whatever he wanted. There was a lot of hype around the players like Finlay McCrae, Ash Johnson, Kruger at the time, Reef McInnes. But Finlay McCrae was by far and away the most hyped player in that pre-season. Unfortunately, he never got selected for that opening round game. And I think when he came into the side, he came in as a sub, and then he came in as this half-forward flanker / winger, never really played his true position, which was inside mid. And we'll get to why maybe that, or why that why that never happened, why he never got the keys to play in the midfield on a full-time basis when he was given opportunities. So that probably speaks to where he said, I didn't quite get the opportunity I was after in extended periods. Talking about saying he's got a lot to offer at West Coast, really excited about the young group. McCrae's opportunities at Collingwood were often few and far between, and when they were granted, very rarely was he given a run within his best position. A natural midfielder, McCrae wasn't able to displace any of the Magpies' elite midfield unit, although his time outside of the engine room fine-tuned his craft around the ground, developing skills to carry through to West Coast in 2026 and beyond. Finlay says, there was definitely times playing playing VFL in the last few years where I was getting a bit frustrated playing forward or out on a fat side wing at times. In the long run, that has definitely helped me and shaped me as a better player wherever the Eagles are after. I'm more than happy to play. That said, time spent on the fat side certainly didn't fill McCrae with much joy. He wants you to run good patterns but not get a heap of footy that day, I think. So, look, without body language and tone, it's hard to interpret what this is, if it's rage bait or anything like that. I think he's just saying tongue-in-cheek, you get put in a position where you are asked to play a role. Yes, you're not going to find a lot of footy, and you are learning running patterns and understanding players around you who are the go-to guys in those moments. So I wouldn't read into this too much. I think you'd want to hear the voice tone in this. You want to play the AFL. You want to play AFL as soon as the opportunity comes. Put your hand up. I'm more than happy to do it, but you probably won't be doing it for a few weeks in a row. Let me say, you want to play AFL as soon as the opportunity comes. Put your hand up. I'm more than happy to do it, but you probably won't be doing it for a few weeks in a row. So I think this is just talking about knowing when he got the opportunity at AFL level for the Pies, there were times where you just knew you were only going to be in for X amount of time, regardless of what you did, simply because there are players who are just well ahead of you for whatever reason, and you're playing a role for the side. So when he came in, I remember he kicked 3 goals against West Coast. He played purely forward. So it doesn't matter what he does, at some point he's going to be moved out of the side because he's playing a role. He's not necessarily playing a position that's demanding like the midfield in some ways, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much it. It's just interesting how he's sort of highlighted that he felt like he would have wanted or had earned opportunities in times in extended periods. And I just think that's more so to do with the beginning of last year and little bits and pieces later in that season. I think the shoulder surgery, I think when we all saw they needed a shoulder reco this year, that was the beginning of the end for him, which is unfortunate because this would have been a massive chance for Finlay to prove himself on the AFL list, which didn't happen. He actually, to be fair, he had a really good VFL season when he came back into it, but just watching those games, what was the limiting factor for Finlay McCrae? His kicking efficiency. Similar to Ed Allen, just unable to break out of the pack and be really clean by foot, which is a requirement at the highest level, which is going to hold you back. And yes, going to West Coast and playing AFL games may help you develop that, but that's at a developing club. At Collingwood, you can't just play a player into learning or developing that ability to kick well on a consistent basis. So it's unfortunate in the way that it's panned out. And it is funny, I do remember in his draft year, they were talking and there was footage of Finlay McCrae being a really good kick going inside 50 and around the grounds. But I suppose Coates or the TAC Cup back then is a different level to the AFL and a different level to the VFL. So that's why it's always take good ball use at junior level with a grain of salt, because there was big promises around Finlay McCrae being that guy at TAC level, and that didn't pan out. But anyways, ladies and gents, let me know what your thoughts are on that. And as always, go Pies.